Before you open up another Google Doc to write a long-form sales page, let's actually figure out the very crucial question that nearly every business owner has to ask, which is, should I actually create and invest the time and sometimes the money into creating a short-form or long-form sales page for my business, and which one's going to actually convert my audience better? And in today's video, we're going to go over the pros, the cons, and my experience as a sales conversion expert on what's going to be best for your product type and your audience so that you can go into the sales page creation process with a sense of peace of mind and hopefully save you some time too going back and forth. So whether you're using Kajabi or another platform to design your sales page and write them on, you're going to find some really great nuggets and an answer to the question that keeps going around in your brain. So let's get into it. Now, I've been in the funnel and design space for probably about 7 years now as of this video, and I can tell you this is one of the questions that I feel like every person wonders, because naturally everyone always tells you to go straight for a long-form sales page. The issue with that is, one, they take a lot of time to write and create, and two, they're sometimes not really the best place for you to start, especially if this is the first time launching your product. So I want to go through and also give you visual examples on what I recommend the most, starting with a short form sales page. So you might have seen these. I think of them similar to almost like product pages, especially if you do e-commerce or some type of D2C brand. Naturally, when you see product pages, they are shorter in length, like just because, one, usually people are using something like Shopify or Etsy, where you can't really add in a lot of sections or text. They keep the page builder itself, the product builder itself really succinct, one for SEO and a lot of other things, but it makes it less available to create a long form page for. So that could be one of the reasons why you kind of have to do a short form sales page. But two, let's say you have the ability to create whatever you want. Let's say you have a Kajabi, a Wix, a Showit, a ClickFunnels, a Go High Level, like something like that, where you're able to kind of create whatever page you want. Amazing. Now it comes into the point of what's going to be best for your audience and your product type. So if you have a product that, one, you haven't really tested before, or two, it's a low ticket, it's an impulse buy, it's something straightforward, you can be actually able to decide to do a short form sales page with relative ease. Because if you have a low budget or a low ticket offer, so let's say usually anything under $100, you can kind of get away sometimes, at least with the first iteration, to be a short form sales page, because they don't really need a lot of information to know like this is the right thing for them. Usually things that are under $100, like it does create that level of impulse buy that you've probably felt if you go into some type of Target or your favorite store, where you see a product that you kind of know a little bit about and you're like, okay, it's under my threshold of what I'm willing to like buy today. That's kind of what the short form sales pages really allow for them to do without having to add so much more complexity to it. It's with an offer that is a low ticket, so it's under 100, even especially under $50, you can kind of get away with the short form sales page where they understand that this is kind of like in their budget threshold, that they're willing to do an impulse buy or a faster buying process that normally you wouldn't really feel if you were doing something that was like $5,000, $1,000, even sometimes even $500, depending on which industry you're in. So that's one of the first ways to know, is kind of understanding, one, what is my product's price point, especially in the industry you're in. So let's say it's a $50 product that in most industries is like $500. Okay, then maybe you don't have to have it be as long. The second thing that a short form sales page is really good for is for straightforward offers. Now, I know this becomes a little bit more vague because, with the low budget thing, I can give you the number and say, okay, my product is under $50, I can go do it. But the thing is, straightforward offers can sometimes be a little bit harder to pinpoint. But the way I try and think about it is, if I were to share this offer with like a majority of my industry or whoever my ideal audience is, would they get it in the first 5 seconds? Especially, is it an offer to the topic itself? The next factor that shows that the short form sales page is right for you and your product is also if it's a straightforward offer. Now, unfortunately, it's not as binary as, is my product under $50? Okay, great. Then short form is great for me. A straightforward offer, like the way you kind of know if it is straightforward, is what I like to recommend as like, is it really well known, the topic itself, and well sold in your industry? So for example, like especially if you are in the business to business space, there are certain topics that naturally people get off the top of their head. For example, like sales page templates or copy templates, because they're well sold. I don't really have to sell you on why this is so like important for you, it's very straightforward. You pay X dollars, you get the sales page template that includes, you know, the design, the copy, and so forth. And that's pretty straightforward. When you start to tiptoe into informational based offers, so anything around coaching, courses, info products, or you have something that is a new product on the market. So for example, I have one of my clients who is on the e-commerce side. So she has a hands-free automated tooth fairy box. First of its kind, even as like it's her patent on there. And it's really different just because it has this mechanism that they've created that you put the tooth and the money in within like, you know, a certain time period. It flips them up and the kid is able to open it and think, oh my gosh, the tooth fairy came, while you're able to sleep soundly. Really cool product. But because the concept of the tooth fairy is not, you know, it's very well known, it's very straightforward, but the mechanism and the way that this works isn't as straightforward. We need it to be a little bit longer of a sales page and probably some more information around it too, because now we're introducing this electronic part of it that no one really has seen before. That's when it really makes a better case for having more of a like long form sales page, or even just like more copy or pages to surround it, because it's something that even though the concept itself is really well known, you know, tooth fairy, the mechanism and the way it works isn't. Similar to if you have like a new framework for how you're approaching, you know, manifestation, or your, I don't know why I always go with shoes, but if you have a new pair of shoes that no one's ever seen before, like those really wacky like heels and all that kind of stuff, like fish Crocs, really weird stuff, you can be able to maybe benefit from having a more long-form sales page. So if you have something that's more straightforward, and the way to kind of know if it's straightforward, one, are there people in your audience or in your industry who are selling similar things? You know, a sales page template, I think almost every designer, copywriter has something like that. It's very well known. Obviously, you can have your own spin on it, your own take, but the concept of the offer itself is really well known. And if it's not, then that's probably where we need to go into more of the long form sales page side. Now, the final bullet point to know whether or not you want to do a short form sales page is honestly, if you're going to do this just for your really warm audience, or you plan to make it for cold ads as well. And the reason I say this is because I primarily help people who are going from primarily warm, you know, their current audience, to scaling more through ads or some type of cold efforts. Because of that, usually people who, you know, don't know who you are yet, who aren't already bought in a little bit to you and your product, need more information, need more reviews, all that kind of thing. So naturally, if you are doing more of a cold effort, you're doing something around ads, YouTube, PR, something where people are finding you for the first time, it can really benefit you to have some type of long form sales page to give them more information that they would have probably gotten if they would have been in your audience for another few months and like seen other posts or emails as well. So I usually recommend having a long form sales page, especially if you do decide to do ads. Again, this can be a little bit trickier if you are doing a product-based business, but this is where it can be really helpful to have subsequent and complementary pages with more information that we could retarget and all that kind of fun stuff with, without getting too much into like the ad strategy. You've heard me talk about the main factors on whether or not you should do a short form or long form sales page in terms of like the bullet points of more of the factual based things, but I also want to give you some things to consider on the internal side, because at the end of the day, either you are spending money to hire this out or you're doing it yourself, and that already takes some more time because your time is money as well. So the things to know also, if this is going to be the right thing for you and your product, number one, do you have the capacity or time to do this, or even like outsource it out? And the reason I say that is because yes, even though a long form sales page might make most sense for you, maybe it's actually not the right thing for you at the moment. Maybe it's something to go even short form first and then build out farther. Like maybe you're someone who had this deadline, this launch you've been wanting to do forever, and you're like, okay, I need to get this done, but I'm 2 weeks away, I haven't done the sales page yet. Whatever is your thing. Knowing your level of capacity, looking at your calendar and actually saying like, is it feasible for me right now to dedicate? Usually for most people, I would say writing a sales page, a long form one, can be anything from like a couple hours to a couple of days. I don't mean like full days. I just mean some people have different writing styles and different ways of going about it. And the design aspect can take about the same thing. It can be a couple hours to a couple of days. Again, it just depends on like the level of one, your ability to design things, and two, how intricate and like customized you want this page to be. So knowing all of those things allows you to be able to create a better way of choosing what's going to be right for you. So if you are someone where you're looking at your calendar, it looks crazy long, and like you're like, I have no idea how I'll be able to fit this in, but I don't want to do it, then maybe starting with a short form sales page where you're at least able to get the main things that matter, and get that out first before you move into a long form sales page might be the best option for you, just on your capacity level, on your ability to know also if your product does lean into more of that straightforward side and also the low budget side too, or if it's in that like weird middle between, like it's kind of around the $300 to $500 mark and you're like, I don't really know, I should go either way. I kind of lean towards, again, what is your capacity? What can you commit to, or at least have the budget to do? And if that's short form, let yourself go there. You can always build on later. I would say I lean towards long form because I like to write. I do write a lot. I do naturally like to explain more, just it's part of my nature. I naturally write longer form sales pages in general. Like, if you look at any of the courses that I have, I don't really have that many because I'm more of a template and one-to-one gal, but I do have 2 courses and they are long-ish sales pages because also the concepts that I'm talking about, what I talked about before, the frameworks that I'm talking about these offers around is new and unique and kind of complex, so I have to kind of take more time to explain why, but that's just also how I write. So if also knowing yourself, if you do write long form, if you do naturally write long or even speak long as well, then you can kind of lean towards the long form sales page too. It's really about what is available for you to do. And this is why it's so important also, whether you choose this long form or the short form sales page, to include some type of heat map recording during this time. So I'm a huge lover of Hotjar. I talk about it so much, but I love Hotjar because it's a free tool that you're able to use. It actually helps to track and see what your customers are doing. So let's say you start with a short form sales page. That's great. You'll be able to actually see what people are doing on your sales page and see, okay, is there enough here from what they're seeing where they're actually going to buy, or are they dropping off at certain points and why? That can give you some better data to show, is it worth you then expanding into a long form sales page? Or if you're starting with a long form sales page, you have so much more data now to be able to actually use to your benefit, because the really cool thing about a long form sales page is there's so many things that you're hitting. You can be able to see what they're hitting on the most, what they're spending the most time on, and double down on that. You have kind of more flexibility to see, like, is this going to be better to use in the long term? So I personally love Hotjar for that reason. So in case maybe you're like on the fence, you can always have that tool to back up and say, okay, what are my customers actually doing? How can I actually see both from one, the actual numbers of like, are they buying or not? And then 2, from their recordings of what they feel like they are missing. That's going to be so helpful for you to know going forward if this is something that you want to stick with as a long form or a short form sales page. And at the end of the day, you have to go with your gut. So if you're someone who just keeps having resistance around creating a long form sales page, maybe that's not right for you, and that's okay. But letting yourself kind of take this all in, digest, and also see what feels best for your calendar, what feels best for your product type and your offer type, and choose from there. Okay, Manny Danielle here. I wanted to go over now what this looks like, the short form versus long form sales page. It might not be as easy to notice a difference, but I'll actually show you how to know if it's long form or short form. Obviously, short form is going to be under a few sections. There's not really an industry standard for how many sections to have. I say usually like 5 to 7 is like a short form, where even though this announcement bar I wouldn't really count as a section on its own, I would say like this one is 1, this one is 2, 3, the 4 is like the pricing, and then like a testimonial, and then 6 and 7-ish. This one's a little bit longer than I would say, but it's still, I would consider it a borderline short form sales page. And you can kind of tell also by this bar here. So whenever this bar is a little bit longer than normal, and I think by normal, like if you see my mouse, you can see that there's like 1 mouse, 2 mouse, 3 mouse, 4 mouse, 5 mouse. Like that's the 5 mouse length, maybe even like 7 mouses, and that's a short form sales page. Versus if we go here, you'll see here, this is like 1, 2, barely kind of 3 mouse lengths. I don't know, hopefully this makes sense, but that's kind of how I see it, is like this one's bordering actually on a bare minimum kind of long form sales page. And again, showing you here the other things that I would say that I noticed the most from a short form sales page is it's giving the bare bones of what they need to know. So it's the basics of like what's on a normal short form sales page is going to be like, what's the name of the offer, or what's who's it for, like giving them a couple of sentences knowing if it's right for them, talking about again some type of graphic usually to show what the product is, and then where they can pay, and a testimonial. This is a little bit more bonus for those who have information-based products, or maybe you have the ability to show like what's, if this is right for you or not for you, or it's like your module breakdown. Some people do have an about me section. Again, if you have a product business, you might not really need this to be on this page. And then the frequently asked questions, again, this is something to have on, I would say, any page. And I have a whole entire strategy on how I use this to actually help convert people better. But that's the basics of what would be on a normal short form sales page. Versus on this long form one, it's longer. And I actually go into a little bit of more of a detail on like, is this right for you? I also have up here like multiple buttons to help them go to the right place, because when it's a long form sales page like this, naturally you have to scroll a lot longer. It's also like the scroll test, I would say. You know, over here, if I'm starting from square one, I have like 1, 2, 3, 4-ish, like 3 scrolls, like full scrolls at the end of the page, versus over here on the long form one, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 8 to 10, honestly, scrolls or more. That's a long form sales page. And again, the same pieces of the short form are still here. We talk about the program name, we talk about the is this right for you, all that kind of stuff. But the only difference is, you know, I let myself explain a little bit more around how the product is right for them through the like features here. I also have like deeper explanation. This is where, like, again, if you have a product that people don't know that well or it's complex, having more visuals and more places to be able to explain why this is important for them is so helpful. You know, I have an expanded FAQ, the stress-free here, and there's so many more sections we can actually add in. It's wild, but I like to keep my templates pretty straightforward. And again, it's still conversion focused. All of my templates are. And it's because I want to make sure that this is as easy as possible for you to create without having the headache of wondering like what to do. So anyway, this is kind of the difference. And I think it's really interesting to see it based off of a similar brand versus I didn't want to show you kind of a before and after of those who have, it would be like for different brands. So this way you can actually see the difference of the length itself and how it looks on relatively similar pages. So hopefully that gives you a better understanding of what it looks like and kind of how to know and reference the links and what's going to be on side of each pages. Okay, now that you've seen the literal before and afters of the short form, the long form sales pages, giving you all of the points to know, I'd love to know which one you're choosing below. If you still have any more questions and still wondering if you're still on the fence of like which one to choose in terms of the length, feel free to comment below and I'd love to help you. But I hope that this led you to finding the answer that's right for you, your product, and your audience. And with that, happy selling, and I'll see you in the next video.